I'll try to, I forget that I'm vice chair, but Justin is not here, so I guess these are my duties. So I'm calling to order our February 27th school committee meeting. Justin is coming shortly, but we will get started as it is 7 o'clock. I'm gonna ask everybody to please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're gonna start with our consent agenda, and it looks like we have minutes from 2 meetings to approve because there was an edit that was made in the January 23rd meeting. So let's start with that meeting first, or we do both together? We do one at a time?
One at a time.
All right. So let's start with the January 23rd meeting. If everyone has had a chance to review those minutes, if there are any.
Could we vote on the whole consent agenda in one fell swoop?
Well, yeah,
So that would be the consent agenda
That
for
would be
the
fine.
minutes and the oath to bills.
yeah, if you're gonna do
Okay,
minutes individually, that have to
Yeah,
be-
I move that we approve the minutes from January 23rd, the minutes from February 6th, and the oath to bills and payroll.
Great. We need to do a roll call vote?
no,
Great. Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that passes unanimously. And this is our first opportunity for interested citizens. We will have another opportunity towards the end of the meeting. Do you have anybody here? Okay.
We do not have any.
All right, so starting with our recognition portion, our student representative is home, but I hear that she is in the Zoom room to give us an update. Raquel, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, Raquel.
Thank you so much for having me. So for Shaker Lane students have had a great week after returning from February break, and they look forward to a great month of learning in March. Next Wednesday is an early release day where staff will be working on staff-led PD, where they have outlined areas of growth to focus on during this time. For Russell Street had their first school-wide stripe assembly on Tuesday of this week. The assembly focused on safety, and they had several guest speakers from the police department, fire department, technology department, Nurse Kathleen, and the cafeteria manager, Miss Brandy. So thank you to all of those who made that possible. For the middle school will host the 6th grade Kids Night Out on Friday, March 7th from 5:30 to 7:30, and the cost of entry is $5. Finally, for the high school, on March 5th, there will be a Chipotle fundraiser for the class of 2027 from 4 to 8 p.m. And on March 7th, LHS students will attend the Region 4 Science and Engineering Fair at Tufts University. Good luck to all the students participating. And that is all I have.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm technical. Could we turn the sound off of that machine? Because I think there's, there might be a feedback and it's kind of.
John, I think the remote's here.
Oh, okay. I was just looking for the switch on the side.
Sorry, thank you. I think that'll help with feedback and sound and just like hearing. Thank you.
There are other feedback sources, so.
Okay, well, every little bit.
Sure. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Our second recognition will be Director of Teaching and Learning, Mrs. Steele, recognizing the upcoming book talk.
We'll have to acknowledge the book talk, but we're very excited about the book talk. Hopefully you have heard about it by now, seen the flyer by now. And Steve's gonna put the flyer up so everyone can get eyes on it again. We're very excited on March 19th at 6 p.m. at the high school to be welcoming author Sang Tai. He's authored the book The Years of Zero, Coming of Age Under the Khmer Rouge. It is a book that was available to our staff, to students at the high school to obtain a copy for reading. And there are also copies available at the Reuben Moore Library. in order to stake out and read, in order to be able to come either pre-read it or even maybe come hear about it, meet the author, and then read it afterwards. We're really excited to be able to offer this. It is being funded through the grant, the Genocide Education Grant that we were able to acquire and obtain for this year. So we're excited about that. And I really just want to give props to Kristen McManus. She's one of our history educators at the high school who really boots on the ground for this grant in order to kind of organize different activities. And she's been in contact with Sam and also with Sam Alvarez at the library, Rubenford Library. He's the director. Conversations and making sure that we get books over there so that the community can participate too. So we would like to just kind of spread that word and see as many people join us as possible on the night. I've read the book. Dorothy told me she couldn't put it because it's very interesting history. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. We have any other recognition?
Have a couple, always have a couple. First one tonight is I'd like to congratulate Dr. Snow for her successful completion of the dissertation. Big day was just before February break, and Dr. Snow's dissertation really focused on post-pandemic teacher burnout. And the actual title of her dissertation was Empowering Educators Toward Collaborative Cure, Leveraging Co-Creation to Address Post-Pandemic Teacher Burnout. Her study was conducted within the Littleton Public Schools, so we have some great information to use moving forward. So thank you, Lynn. You are officially an alumni of Northeastern University. Wow.
Double husky.
Oh, you're a double alumni.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
And yes, my second acknowledgement, our winter sports season is going to be soon over. Tonight, our hockey team's playing at Groton School Arena. It's the 32nd game, they call it, of the MIAA championship. So it's a big game. They're playing Bourne. A long way from Bourne to travel for a hockey game tonight. But keep our fingers crossed to see what happens in that game. Then tomorrow night we have two basketball games. Girls are playing at 7 o'clock. And they're actually playing Blue Hills up at Cape Cod, it'll be at the high school. And it's the 32nd round as well. Same with the boys, 32nd round tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. They're playing near Shirley. Team that's close by, very much traveling time. And if you're interested in watching those games, we're anticipating a very large crowd, so it would be in your best interest to get there early so you can find somewhere to sit on the bleachers. I'm excited we're at this part of the senior time of the season, and our teams have done very well again this year. So time for celebration here. And it will be live streamed, so if you can't make it, you can always watch it on TV. That's it.
Yes.
Make a correction on the times. I just got an update on the times.
Oh,
I believe the girls' game, just so because it's on TV, I want people
Yeah.
to know. The
so
girls' game starts tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the high school,
ah,
and the boys are starting at 7:15. I'm just looking at this. So
change the time zone. Sorry.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
We're gonna go a little bit out of order because I believe our first presentation, he is also running late with Justin. So we're gonna skip to presentation number 2, which is instructional technology update with our technology coordinator, Julie Lord.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Proceed.
I'll get it. Hold on a second.
I'm excited to be here tonight. I do have, I'm hoping we'll have time for a quick activity. I know I'm trying to keep things, perfect.
Hey, you're up.
All right, cool. So here we go. So I'm here tonight. My name is Julie Lord. I'm instructional technology coordinator for the district. I'm excited to share some highlights with instructional tech in our district.
So we can move on to the next slide there. So I just want to remind everyone, we are a one-to-one. We have a one-to-one technology program. We started our one-to-one rollout back in 2017 over at the high school. And from a few years moving forward, we're now one-to-one K through 12. This includes all educators and all ESPs and a lot of our support staff. So at this time, we're looking at supporting and managing close to 2,000 devices that are in the hands of our educators and our students. You can go back one, sorry. Yeah, so again, I know a lot of districts have been in the one-to-one model for a couple of years, but just a reminder on some of the positive and benefits of having this program in place. There's a couple of key elements up there. I want to highlight a couple there. So personalized and engaging learning. When we start talking about interactive curriculum, a lot of our new curriculums and will have a digital component, online component, where our students are able to kind of have more of an interactive activity and a little more engaging. The development of essential skills, that one seems pretty straightforward. The digital literacy is obviously something that's going to come along with that, but also opening up the ease of collaboration and communication between our learners and our educators. Enhanced assessment practices. The big one here for me too really is more of the efficient feedback and I guess personalized assessment too. Just ease of educators being able to get feedback to the students quicker in digital format. And most importantly, equity and access, really the equal opportunities, allowing all learners to have access to digital content. And additionally, accessibility tools have really leveled the playing field for all of our learners, right? So we're not really just saving those accessibility tools for a specific set of learners. We're encouraging all students to sort of explore and see how those could meet their learning needs. Oh, okay. So what's newish in the classroom? Okay, so we kind of spiced up our classroom model back in 22-23. So we moved away from the typical projector, AV mounted in the ceiling, audio mounted in the ceiling, and we moved forward with an interactive panel. So at this point, I think we have about 100 deployed throughout the district, boils down to about 25-ish in each building. Interactive panels are pretty much just an interactive board, like a touch screen. It sort of brings, it integrates a function of like your traditional whiteboard with a computer and a projector all into one device. Lots of benefits to this. We're getting students really getting an opportunity to engage and interact with it, along with, like I was saying, a lot of our curriculum now, the platforms are kind of made for this type of tech. So it's really kind of an exciting new way to see learning happening in the classrooms. I was thinking this picture is from Jess's classroom, but I think from Allison's. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and then what else? Okay, and also flexibility, mobility. We made the decision to go with these mobile models just to kind of be able to be flexible moving forward and kind of moving away from that traditional sort of classroom setting. And deployment maintenance support. These are just really easy machines to kind of maintain and support. So they've been a really helpful tech investment in our classrooms. We're typically will see too, so most classrooms are outfitted with this. The dock cams are still really popular in elementary. We're starting to see some of them kind of retire a little bit, and I think they really came out of the COVID days where that was like an essential piece. And I also think the interactive panels are kind of taking away the necessity of the dock cams, but we still see the dock cams, especially in elementary. So that's typically what's in our classrooms nowadays. All right. All right, so effective support for classroom tech and these devices requires both a robust network infrastructure and a dedicated skilled team. So here we are. This is our strong but mighty team of 5. I am very fortunate. We have a great team in place. We do get a lot of turnover through our department. But this team has been in place since the fall, and it kind of blows my mind how well everyone is sort of acclimated to their new positions. So I work alongside Natalie Croto. She's the tech systems coordinator. Cody Fontaine just took the IT systems specialist position this past fall and is just doing a stellar job. Really stepped into a lot of ongoing projects, but also has already started up his own projects, and so he's just doing wonderful in that position. Charlie Sullivan has been with us for, I think 14 years. Charlie supports Russell Street and middle school. I feel like Charlie takes so much pride in making sure that teachers are happy with the tech in their room, that the devices are in really good shape. He also does provide entertainment. So he does a lot of the school-wide, if they're doing like a holiday sing-alongs or something like that. So that's really exciting to see. Stefan just joined us this fall, and they are doing an amazing job of support for Shaker Lane and the high school. You know, I think it's important to say supporting teachers and supporting an education system is much more than just tech support. We talk a lot and we prioritize a lot the importance of really supporting our teachers so that they can feel that they have reliable support from us so that they can concentrate on the students in front of them, right? And just not being able to try to take as much stress off of their plate as possible, and always making sure that we're trying to be supportive. And we talk about that, we promote that, and I think that my team does a great job at that. So I'm really excited. I'm really proud to be part of this crew. So, all right. So this is like the fun stuff, and I have to say too, this. So I'm going to do a little demo. I'm going to give you a little background, then I'm going to have Steve run the video so that those at home can kind of have an understanding of what we're going to have an opportunity to experience. Before we get going on that though, so we got another generous flip grant from Littleton Electric, who has really, especially when we talk about STEM and tech, kind of bringing in sort of new technologies and exploring options, has always been really supportive. This really was the brainchild of Heidi McGregor, our STEM integration specialist. She had put together the grant, and we were really excited to bring this into Russell Street this year. All right, I'll give you the background after this, but if you want to play the video is just going to kind of show you, it's a 1.5 minute video, just sort of what it is, and I'm going to kind of do a little bit of unpacking, and then we'll be able to have a little bit of an adventure.
Sorry about that. My fault.
Oh, sure, I love that.
There.
Please have all that. So we have a few. We have a very drench it, disinfectant.
It's not working.
You have a screen?
I don't know what's wrong with it.
Open the door to a world of possibilities with Class VR. Groundbreaking VR and AR technology designed exclusively for education. With Class VR, you can capture the imagination and transport students anywhere, at any time. Students can walk with dinosaurs, dive deep inside the human body, or experience a journey to the middle of the earth. Not only can you bring subject models to life in the palm of your hand, but you also have access to thousands of curriculum-aligned resources right at your fingertips. Class VR makes lesson management a breeze. You can create playlists effortlessly, manage classroom activities, and monitor lessons in real time. And the best part? Class VR is quick to set up, easy to adopt, and simple to use. It's no wonder why VR learners are 4 times more focused, 4 times more emotionally connected to lessons, and 4 times quicker to retain knowledge. It's the world's leading VR and AR solution for schools. Experience the future of education with Class VR.
So this Class VR, this is really new tech coming out. We've experimented before with VR with definitely not up to the same standard. And I had brought in last year AR, augmented reality with the cubes. So this is really some really cool technology because it sort of embeds both of those worlds. But really the power behind this is the platform that they have to support. So this is strictly an education platform. So there's so much content, lesson plans. It's really easy for teachers to kind of find the right types of scenes and contents and to kind of build what they call a playlist. It delivers directly to the students in your classroom. We're going to have a little bit of a different experience because I'm not connected to the network here. So you're going to be a little more independent, but it allows the teacher to really have control of what the students are looking at. There are 4 different types of scenes. There's your typical, you're in a 360 image, right? High resolution image. You can look all around, but you're static. There's a 360 video. So there's actually video animation, could be real, could be computer generated, but you're still static and the animation is happening around you. And then there is the 360 interactive simulation, which is what we're going to get an opportunity to do today. And then there's also the AR, the augmented reality, where you can use the cubes. So, which I wish we could do them all, but because of time, what we're going to get to do is, and I do want to backtrack a little bit, just to give Heidi McGregor some props for this. So she has really been spending a lot of time looking through the content on this platform to align with our new ELA curriculum, the Wit and Wisdom curriculum. So she's finding and creating these playlists for our educators to be able to kind of use that in conjunction with the modules that they're teaching. So for instance, we will be just visiting one of the scenes of Heidi's playlist that explores the moon. This is part of grade 3's, I think their second module where it is all about the moon and exploration. So just a few little tips and tricks here. So when you put the headset on, there is a little sensor. Okay, so then it will know that you're there and then it will come on. You're going to, when you come in, you're going to see a menu, and then you'll see that as you look around, you're going to have a selection dot. Okay. With your handheld control, there's an OK button on the end. This is like your activator, right? Like your selector. So when you get your dot on the one that says the moon, you're going to hit that, and it's going to bring you into the 360 interactive scene. You can move around wherever you look, and then you can move the controller forward and back to move. So you don't have to go right and left. You guys can just give it a shot, and I'll be here to help you out if you need any help.
If I take a picture?
There's a couple in there, but we're gonna do them. It'll take you a second to kind of get acclimated. Did anyone get to the moon yet?
What happens if
Stacy?
I actually see you?
Someone is, Stacy, I can hear.
I'm on the moon.
As soon as you,
Get there.
there's an OK button.
Where are you,
on top.
Justin?
It won't.
No, right on the very top of the control.
On the end.
On the end of the control.
On the end with the index finger.
There.
Yep.
That's-
Oh.
But it won't highlight.
Oh, really?
Move with your eyes.
Please come to this. I got ours.
Yeah, you on the menu now?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
The Y.
Are you in the menu now?
No.
I didn't.
Now.
Okay, so now, no, so pick moon, just moon.
Focusing, it's
Awesome.
super blurry.
Yes, so
Takes
it's
a while.
a little,
Yeah.
you gotta kind
Yeah.
of like get your eye, like, so if you're further away or you're looking, so it's meant to, you're gonna kind of use it manually to get it.
I'm on the moon. That's pretty wild.
So you can use your controller to move forward and backward.
Oh, I get it.
Based on the way that you're looking. Did you get it, Kelly?
Yeah.
I see the earth and I see everybody.
Oh, okay, so you're in the wrong.
Who's in that?
There's a couple of different scenes, that's why, so right now, are you back to the menu?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see where it says just the moon, like move your head around?
Oh, yeah.
And then put the dot on the moon.
Walk around,
Going up the mountain.
climb up the hill, come down, get a better view.
Okay, so now where's your phone? All right, so now, wherever you look,
Oh, where are you looking?
and then you go
Oh,
forward, it's gonna move
okay.
you forward.
I wish we could show it on the screen, what they'll see.
Yeah, so that'd be awesome.
Oh, she was in that generic VR.
Oh, is it
in the room? And now it's like the-
I wish I could see you.
Julie, I don't think I did a good job.
We're in the VR.
I know, we're So actually, I'm third.
Does anybody else wanna try it?
We can watch this on TV
All
later.
together. But you need a.
There's an.
Anybody else want to try it?
It's fun.
It is, it's very.
Anyone try it?
Sorry.
No, don't, sorry, you're good. I might, I probably, Oh, okay.
Can I get in the cart?
You can't, but you can look at all the cool
no.
gadgets in the car.
No, I'm back, I'm on.
You want to try it?
Cool, if you come up this hill, you can see the area.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Can see the what?
But they are, if you like climb up the hill.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking, I was like,
So is it third graders?
remember seeing them go like that?
Yeah, so I believe all third grade classes have, yes, yep.
I'm gonna ask.
I can't wait to do it.
Oh, and only third grade so far.
Yes.
Only third,
Took a couple.
only, I'm pretty sure, but I have to check it. I believe all third graders have done this activity.
We have to try it
There's
out
multiple,
first, yeah.
like 4 or 5 scenes.
Yeah.
And then, I know climbed up the line. Some of the others have done that, smaller,
It's lost in it over there.
and I know Shaker Lane used them too, but I don't think we just got them in,
Yeah.
start January, so.
Covered the whole book.
They'll, so they will live at Russell Street,
Stacy, what do you
but
think?
Yeah.
they travel so well. She's already brought them over to,
Oh, yeah.
to Shaker Lane too, so yeah. So, but, yeah.
I knew they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's like, I want
That's so cool.
rocket launch at Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, there's
Very.
You can ask her now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just much
Very
kids. So again, we're very appreciative about, you know, the support that we get from Littleton Electric, just allowing us to kind of have these sort of opportunities to explore, new technology in the hands of children. There's also, again, like I said, tons of content, that we'll be able to kind of, embed into our curriculum. And, there's also the possibility, there's also the ability to create, using another platform where students can actually, create their own virtual scenes. So yeah, the potential is going to be really exciting to kind of see what happens with this. And again, props to Heidi for really being, the champion of getting this one in the hands of our students at Russell Street. All right, so AI, again, just want to give everyone sort of an overview of where we are with AI and education and sort of the discussions and what's happening to support that in our district. I feel really good about the way our district sort of handled the whole AI coming into education last year, where we kind of took a step back and said, we've got to kind of keep our minds open. we need to sort of explore and understand a little bit more. We had created last year the AI use guidelines for educators and staff. We were hoping that this document was just going to alleviate some of the concern and allow teachers to start to explore and understand the technology of AI. We recently just made an update. Our new updated version of the guidelines is it's on this presentation, but it's also available on our website. Again, the biggest change from last year is we're not concerned. I shouldn't say not concerned. Because of student data privacy, there were no applications that we could really promote for student use. So they would be either restricted from their device and because they didn't have a student data privacy agreement. That has since changed. So there are a handful of applications that offer AI supported either like chatbots or other supported generative AI tech. And that would be School AI is a really cool platform that it allows a teacher to kind of create sort of a space so that students can interact with a chatbot. I guess that's the best term to kind of use. And the teacher can set specific parameters, whether that chatbot is an expert in some field or maybe it's all based around a specific book. And then allow the students to kind of engage and ask questions and sort of learn through that, through talking back and forth. So that's sort of where we are with that. We continue the conversation. We've been doing a lot of professional development in-house. We're going to the AI Summit at Bentley hosted by Ed Tech Teacher. And next week we have 7 teachers who are going to this, and that's across the district. All schools are represented. So so again, ongoing conversations, sort of just trying to figure out how this is going, the impact it's going to have, and the positives that it can bring to the table.
I know, I'm trying to stop one of them.
Okay, so just a few things I would like to take the opportunity just to share with the community. All right, so school status. We had launched school status in the School Now app earlier this school year. This is our communication platform. It ties into our website. It's what we are using to communicate with our community for posts, social kind of posts of what's going on in the schools, messages and alert notifications. Although end users can pick the way that they like to get their information, we are really, really trying to promote our families to get the School Now app. It's just going to be able to create sort of ease of communication and sort of has everything that you need for school related information all in that app. So we're hoping to kind of continue to get our families onboarded with this. Our online safety hub, again, this is available on our district site under community. We had worked with LineWise, who provides our content filtering, and they have this really great resource hub of information when it comes to all things sort of online safety technology, social media, how to kind of handle what parents really should know about when we're talking about technology in the hands of our children. Just a great resource. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that and know that that's available to our community. And Tiger Tech support. Yes, so Tiger Tech is a group of students. This organization started a couple of years ago. This is a student-led group. Right now, there's about 24 high school students who participate in this group. They provide all the repairs, the Chromebook repairs for the district, and they also provide tech support for our COA, for our seniors in our community. So I just wanted to kind of put a shout out There is a flyer if anyone in our community is interested in getting tech support from our seniors, our senior high school students, actually our high school students. There's a list of dates here and you can sign up at the COA. And then this is my last little public announcement, LPS Spring STEM Challenge. So this will be our fourth Spring STEM Challenge. We are in the planning stages right now. This is a district-wide event that focuses on the engineering design process. The initiative was created and primarily driven by Heidi McGregor, who has a deep passion to empower all students to envision themselves in STEM and connect them to a broader community. So this month-long challenge is where students are tasked to solve a problem using the engineering design process. And while it may look different at different grade levels, the core prompt kind of remains the same. There's usually a storyline, and all students are using that design process to find a solution. And then we have a central platform where students are able to share their ideas. Our high school students play an important part in this project where they're our mentors. So they kind of go in and kind of help support our younger learners and kind of give feedback on their project design. So we're really excited about this. So that should be happening in late April or early May. So just keep your ears open for that one. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the guardrails you have around the AI that you're bringing in? And I ask because I have friends who are subject matter experts, and AI in the wild is not trustworthy.
Right.
So, we want that anything that's happening in the classrooms, we want to be factually based.
Well, absolutely. So the best thing we can really do, Steve, do you mind bringing that slide back up?
Wait a second.
So again, right out of the gate, the best thing that we need to do is really educate educators and students. In fact, even our Hour of Code at Russell Street this year was based around kind of understanding or exploring AI, kind of the functionality of it, understanding the bias that can be embedded, the incorrect information that can be embedded. And so all those things kind of start to be part of what we like digital literacy, right? And just understanding what it is. And so that is a key part of when we're talking about how we're using it, how it functions, and how we can use it appropriately, right? So like understanding that there's certain, if you're going to use it responsibly, right? There is a way to use it responsibly, and just making sure that students and teachers kind of are aware of that. Again, data privacy, right, is a huge piece of it too. And that's why these platforms here, we vetted that we know like that data that you're putting into it isn't going anywhere else. So that's why these are the ones that we're really comfortable with educators starting to use, because if they are using not identifiable student data, but student work or something for some different evaluation, or these are the ones that we feel that we know we have a student data privacy agreement with them. So we know that that content isn't going somewhere. As far as bias and misinformation, that it will is right now it's just part of what we get from these generative AI tools. And so I feel like sometimes if students get an opportunity to kind of explore with that and see that it's not perfect, it's not always right, and how you're supposed to vet information coming out of that type of, generative AI machine or technology. So no, I think we're sort of like in this evolution of starting to kind of understand and set some boundaries. High school, our high school teachers are starting to explore, like I say, in the school AI, creating their own like chatbot so that students can use that tool for their creation to kind of help generate their projects, their work in different capacities, right? And that, and I also believe too that there's one class that they were critiquing AI generated content. So like we're starting to understand that there's more opportunity to use it than just generating our work, right? So there's a lot of learning opportunities there. So again, I think it kind of falls into our digital literacy or digital citizenship even. We'll start to see that come into some of our lessons and stuff, just understanding, that it's not magic, it's not perfect, and there is bias embedded.
Check the work.
Yeah, right.
I was just gonna say that I really appreciate the districts and your commitment and your team's commitment to bringing technology into education and essentially modernizing what education is and should be, because these students and these children are going into a world where AI exists and technology exists and whatever careers and jobs in school, and it's going to be part of it. And I feel like that's sometimes even where like I struggle of like, how do I integrate AI into my work for efficiency? Because everyone's doing it, where you're really equipping them with understanding and, where there are the challenges, where the deep fakes exist, how to differentiate, how to use it responsibly, and that it is a tool and a resource. And that's something that's really important, I think, for students. And it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't do. So I really appreciate that we're bringing it to the schools. We're not afraid of it, but doing it in a really responsible way.
It's been really interesting to the perspectives, even my own perspective, but especially with educators compared from last year to this year. And again, that comes from just now starting to understand and know more and learn more about it. We definitely don't know everything, right? We're not there yet, but I think people are open to like the evolution of it and we'll tread, thoughtfully as we move forward. So.
And certainly there's a responsible way to do it. Like, we're not saying to overhaul education and have everyone just wear VR
Oh,
glasses
right,
all day,
right.
but,
Right.
but in a way that really integrates with best practices.
Question two. So we have the one-to-one technology program. So do you have any insight, or maybe the principals have insight as to like how much the teachers and the students are relying on like cell phones for doing any educational purposes? Or is it strictly they're just using the Chromebooks or whatever they have in the classroom?
So I know it will vary greatly from school to school. I can almost guarantee you there's none of that in elementary. My understanding, but maybe John, you could talk about that.
Just really quick, I see less and less of the phones coming up because of the BYOD program or the one-to-one program. They use their Chromebooks or they use their own, laptop. There are times like during advisory flex block, where we might have them take out for efficiency to complete a survey. And they can goes right to their email, they take out their phone, they can do it quickly on their phone. They're very adept with their phones. They use it, but I see less and less of it, like some of the quizzing that we used to do, take out your phones, and so they really have, I don't know exactly the name of the one, but they see the results right away. And like polling, the polling app, they might use it for that from time to time, but I see less of that. I think they're using more of the laptops than Chromebooks.
I was just curious if that's something we have to rely on, or now that we have all the.
Yeah, it is absolutely not something that they have to rely on. I mean, the reality is not every high school student has a cell phone.
Right.
Yeah, we make student.
Yeah.
One.
Oh.
Have you heard about him?
No, I haven't, but.
He's attempting to finish high school without owning a cell phone.
Great.
Wow.
I heard about him.
Wow. So then there's more than, there's definitely there's a handful who do not.
It's his decision.
Intentional.
So, so it cannot be an expectation by the teacher that every student has, but it can be an expectation that every student has some type of laptop or computer.
Well, I just wanted to tell you how impressed I am at how you're involving so many members of the community with your technology efforts, like having the tech team at the high school repairing Chromebooks, like what a life skill they're gaining, right? And also, I mean, it's a huge job for you to be maintaining all of these devices across the district. So what a great idea to bring those high school students in and to have them supporting seniors at the COA. It's really great. So I appreciate your outreach into the community that way. I did have a question about the school status app.
Yeah.
So I remember back in the day, I brought this up at another meeting, but in the before times, Kelly used to always repost tweets from teachers and it would show up on the homepage of the website and it just made the website look so dynamic. And it really showcased a lot of the great things that were going on in the district. So I noticed that some of that is starting to happen on the homepage now. So is that going to be like more of an initiative that you're pushing to showcase what's happening in the
Yeah,
district?
so there's a couple different components of the school status school now. So there is, again, notifications, which are going directly to specific targeted group, parents, families, community. But then there's that, it's almost like trying to replicate that social, like, oh my gosh, like X, right? I'm trying not to say that one. But trying to recreate a social media platform.
Yeah.
And so really, we're starting to get the ball moving with this. It really is, it becomes like we need our editors, our creators we're starting to onboard more and more. So we're starting to get a nice selection of different posts coming in. So that's an evolution, something that we're all kind of learning about, and we are trying to promote it at each building. I think it's going to be really exciting. Middle school, and not everyone's doing great. Middle school is really doing a great job. Ashley Cheatham over there she's just been doing a great job, just kind of highlighting the exciting stuff going on. So again, really important to us because we want our community going there to be looking for what's happening in the school, what are we celebrating, and then any type of important information. So that will start to evolve more.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for all that you've been doing. This is incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Turn it back over.
Thank you, Mila. Did we just take them out of order and we went with?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Great. Why don't we jump back in order here? So next up, we'll hear from Dave McManus. Littleton Youth Baseball, softball will provide a presentation on the Jet Field Lights project. Thank you for being here, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, committee, school committee. Appreciate this. Steve, you're running.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm very excited to be here in front of you all to present this project on behalf of Littleton Youth Baseball and softball. Just really quickly before I dive into the slides. So for those who don't know me, Dave McManus, I've been a resident of town going on 13 or so years now. I have two kids in the school system. They're both in middle school, and full transparency, my wife is a social studies teacher at our high school. So we're very involved, you can say. So I've been with LYBS now. I started coaching in 2017, I think. Up through T-ball and with my daughters through softball. I recently joined the board a couple of years ago as treasurer, and this past year now I've taken over as president. So standing here on behalf of LYBS, and again, very excited to present this project to you. So for those who don't know, just jumping now to the slides, a little bit about LYBS. So we are a recreational youth baseball and softball league, stress recreational because the goal here, as you'll see, bullet points down below, is really to develop the kids, develop skill sets. We're not out there trying to win league championships and the like. We're not traveling, AAU program and those sorts of things. So it's really honed in bringing these kids along from a very young age and up through the ranks. But we're a nonprofit 501c3, volunteer staffed all around, up through coaches all the way through the board. Players' ages, they start all the way from pre-K through early high school years. Our programs are now running almost year round. So we have spring, summer, and fall seasons. Last year, just to give you a contextual size of how big we are, we had over 420 registrants. About 50% of those are in the spring season. So spring is our biggest season by far. Last couple of years, we've had about a 10% increase. So it's growing. And the mix between baseball and softball was about 2/3 baseball, 1/3 softball. I would say the softball share of that is probably picking up more this year, but it's around that type of split. Again, primary goals are really three: to ensure the kids have fun, teach and develop their skill sets in the games of baseball or softball, and enable or empower them to become great teammates and leaders. And we work very closely with the folks at Littleton Parks and Rec, as well as the LHS Athletic Department. So now talking about the project. So again, very excited to talk about this with you, and very excited because it's something we're bringing to the front here as a project that we, as a 501c3, are willing and able to fund this completely through our program. And so most of the times folks would bring projects or ideas. They're obviously looking for town municipal support. We are 100% looking to cover the cost of this installation. So that being said, we're going to work, as we're doing, closely with town boards, committees, yourselves, others, planning boards, etc., to make sure that we go through the right processes. And ultimately, at the end of this project, which I'll get into the details in the next few slides, LYBS would gift the lights effectively to the Littleton Public Schools, who are the owners of the property that Jet Field resides on. So the picture there, just to give you context, Jet Field is the softball field that's right next to Alumni Field. It's a key component of that complex down on Russell Street. It was renovated last in 2018, and we're looking to make a vast improvement to the field through this project. Go to the next slide there, Steve. So just to give you all a little bit of context, why are we looking to do this? So Jet Field, I mentioned, recently renovated 7 years ago. This is now the primary softball field used by all LHS varsity, JV, and all of our programs, okay? We do have other softball fields in town. There's one at the high school on the way back of that field. There's one down at Shaker Lane that gets used periodically. But this is the primary softball field in town now for all of the programs. So as you would imagine, field scheduling has become very challenging, both for games and practices. So LHS varsity JV typically starts around 4 o'clock. That means if LYBS has games, we're coming in after them. Scheduled start times the last few years have been 6:15. And I can tell you, unfortunately, in most of those instances, through no fault of the high school teams, those games start late. And so with sunset, in the spring months around, 7:30, it starts getting dark, tough to see the ball, etc. You're talking in those instances, the LYBS games, you might get, a little over an hour and 15 in. And it's just a very poor experience for all involved, the kids, the parents, the town folks that are traveling in from other towns. Their kid might get one at bat in that game, and it's just, again, a very, very bad experience. So that's a strong piece of why we're looking to do this. Through that, lights will extend the usable field time and accommodate program growth, both at the youth and the high school level. And we just think, we love the idea of putting lights on a field because it's going to lift up the town-wide program, especially we think at a youth level. You can imagine, spring, nights down at Alumni Field in this complex with something going on at Alumni Field under the lights, something going on at Jet Field under the lights, and creates a great atmosphere. So we're excited about it from that perspective. And then, as I mentioned, because we're looking to cover the cost for all of this, we've been able to fortunately raise funds over the last several years due to donors, annual fundraisers, sponsors, and frankly, our board is looking for a way to put those funds to use. That's not a reason alone to do this project, but we are very excited to do so. Okay. So, overview of the project. What we're looking to do here is perform this installation in July after school gets out, so it'll have minimal impact on the school community and what's going on. The on-site work would take about 3 to 4 weeks, weather permitting. So that's full installation and being done in 3 to 4 weeks. We are looking to do what we call preliminary test drilling. That would only take 1 day, but I'll get into the rationale for doing that later. It's to better understand basically what's under the ground and how that will impact our costs. So we're looking to do that hopefully sometime in March after the snow melts a bit. The non-availability of jet fuel during the month of July, when this would occur, would really have a limited impact. There's no high school programs obviously going on at that time because school is out. It's really just LYVS's summer program and summer season going on. And so we would plan accordingly. We would probably have most of our engaged away during that season. But overall, it would be a very minimal impact on the use of the field. We're estimating the project cost be about $163,000, which I'll go into details on the next slide. And again, depending on this preliminary drilling and what we find, that could raise the price tag as high as $208,000. And I've highlighted and put links here to the 3 vendors that we're engaged with. Busco Sports Lighting, very reputable. They do installations of lights on fields across the nation, including professional fields. Systems Electrical Services is basically the installer in this project. And so they're based in Chelsea and again have a lot of experience with these types of projects. And Seaboard Drilling is the company that we're working with to do that preliminary test drilling in March. So in terms of the project design itself, it's not very complicated. It's installing 4 light poles. You can see them marked 2 in the outfield, 2 around the infield on the map there with those gold stars. The placement of those has been, fairly well conceived. I think we might refine them, tweak them a bit before the final design, but basically what you see there on the map is where those lights would go. If you're looking around the infield, the one that's on the first base side, okay, so bottom right, that would be behind the dugout and fencing area. If you're familiar, you can picture that area there. The third base infield one, that one, we've looked at quite a number of times in terms of what would be the best placement because you have the walkway and the pathway that comes down. And if you're again familiar with that space, it does get kind of tight around that corner. So what we're going to do where that star is specifically marked right now is really to be just behind that duct. And so it's out of the way. An emergency vehicle can still get safely through there if needed. So, and we'll go through all of this, of course, with the planning board before that's finalized. So, the 2 in the outfield, there's really no issues. Those would be around those foul poles there. One thing that I've highlighted, and we don't need to go to the video here, but if you care to, you can go and check it out. But these lights use what's called ball tracker technology. And so what it does, it's really quite an advancement. And I got to see this last fall through a demo. If you picture, your old fashioned lights of fields, they're big floodlights. They create a lot of light, pollution, if you will, around the field sometimes. These lights are very specifically designed to really only light the field. And they do so in a way where it doesn't block the field or impair the field of vision for the fielders. So a lot of times, the fielders, they lose the ball up in the lights. This won't happen. That won't happen with actually this technology. So it's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Sounds like the power, we've already checked it out and verified. It'll be sourced from the electrical panel that's nearby. That's already powering the lights around that field in the area. And just to speak about the light pollution, the design that they've done and the analysis shows that the actual impact, again, because of this technology, would really have minimal to no impact on the residential neighbors. If you go kind of behind that first base side, and if you were to go further south on the picture through the trees, there is a house right there. They really would have or experience no impact, even with the field being like that.
Those red and green numbers on the plot mean anything?
They do, and I'm going to get a little out of my depth here, but so they mean they're associated with what are called field candles, I think, or foot candles. And so it's a term that, and it's a way that they measure basically like the impact of the light on the ground area. So this is just one piece of that design analysis. There's others as part of the package that we put together. Yeah. And it actually extends beyond and around the field, but yes, that's what that means. So yep, just to give you a sense around the project costs, which again, we're gonna cover 100% of. The equipment, runs 85,000, that's all poles, the lights, everything there. The installation, that would cost around 70,000 at a base level. The preliminary test drilling, about 5,000 to change. And then we've got a contingency for other costs, so around 163,000 for base costs related to this project. We put a $50,000 deposit already on the equipment. So we've got about 113,000 base costs still left to cover there. The preliminary drilling in that line at the bottom there before the total potential. So the purpose for doing that preliminary drilling is to find out if we're going to hit bedrock or ledge. The poles themselves are about 70 feet high above ground, but below ground, they go to probably around 15 to 16 feet underground. And so if unfortunately, we don't know this until we test, hit bedrock or ledge going that far deep there in each of those specific pole locations, then it would actually add additional costs, unfortunately, to the project. And the estimate is around 11,000 plus for each location. So best case scenario, we don't hit ledge at any of the locations. We could hit it at 1, 2, 3, or all 4. And so worst case, the total project could run about 208,000. But again, we are prepared to cover those costs if we need. And then just thinking down the road. So again, we install this, we do this, great. What next? So the lighting equipment carries a 25-year warranty, which is really incredible. It's completely maintenance free. They cover anything over that 25-year period. The installation, unfortunately, it's standard. It's 1-year warranty. Try to push further on that because it looks so paltry in comparison to the 25 years on the equipment, but that is industry standard on the installation, unfortunately. And then just thinking again, well, this is great, you're donating this, but now you're actually adding costs to our operating budget, right? We put together this really, basic analysis of sorts, but also conservative. So we know the total lighting kilowatt. We ran this using just residential rates. So if we run the lights 4 hours a night, and we do that 60 days or nights a year, which I think is pretty conservative, you're talking about $500-600 in terms of additional costs to the operating budget. So hopefully view this fairly minimal. So I think that's just about all that I had to present. Open up to questions.
I do have a question that I perhaps should have asked you earlier when we talked about this. Anyways, tremendous project. I've been at Hit-a-thon a number of times. We had that rainy hurricane one. It was dreadful to be at. So it was awesome to see all of that work and those donations and volunteers go to a project. I'm in full support of it. Like you said, it's a huge enhancement to the amenity or the athletic complex across the street. The current schedule is that JV varsity plays and then youth sports start after that. I'm thinking that girls varsity softball would love to have a night game too, occasionally. And then that actually makes the situation worse for you folks because they're going to occupy the field at night when your youth program runs and you guys can't really start after school because your volunteer coaches and things like that aren't out of work yet. So have you had a conversation with Mike Lynn about how scheduling might work? Because while it provides an opportunity to play in the evening, if JV and varsity, I just looked at their schedule, they play like two or three days a week. I just wondering if you guys had a conversation as to how the high school might want to use the field too. And obviously we're going to need to share this.
Yes. So no, I haven't had that conversation with Mike, just to be clear. But I do think that certainly, as we've done in the past, we'll work together, to make sure that, because we do want that, we want the high school programs to experience and benefit this as much as the youth programs will benefit and experience from it. So, I think I would imagine that there's solutions around how we go about scheduling. And, when I went back and looked at 2024 last spring, there were, I want to say, 7 instances, where there were there was a game and then an LYBS game after.
Okay.
So, you know, it's not a ton of games where we have that conflict, but those conflicts existed. I think, you know, we would probably look, because I would imagine part of the challenge for the high school would also be, you know, finding a town that would want to, would be able to play at night, but, you know,
You know, if you give them the opportunity, I'm sure they'd love to play at night. That's, how cool is that? And I don't know who runs the schedule, you know, I'm assuming like Lynn runs the schedule for the field. So just, let's have that conversation so that LYBS and Littleton Athletics have some sort of understanding before we go into this. Makes sense, right?
I think it makes.
I mean, you wouldn't want Mike to move all of the games tonight.
That's
You
right.
guys are like, wait a second, we paid for this.
No, but MIAA controls a lot of that scheduling too.
And we wouldn't want the reverse, where it's like, we have this wonderful asset now with, you know, the girls in their junior, senior year don't get to use it. So
Yeah. I'm confident that we can work something out. So,
I just wanted to mention it, because,
no, it's a great point.
but anyways, nice work.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
very nice
your
work.
effort
Thank
to
you.
navigate all the different boards and permits that you have to do to perform this good act that you're venturing.
Steps into the present.
We do need to.
Yeah,
Well, again, I'm not, I'm loath to take any credit. I'm here on behalf of LYPS. And honestly, this is through, you know, years of hard work. Justin mentioned, you know, hit-a-thons that he's attended. This is the result of many, you know, incredible efforts over many years. And really what I'm here to do is just help get this thing across the finish line. So looking and hope to get your support in doing that. And I believe, I don't know, you can say the school needs to approve it in order for us to.
Yeah, it needs to be a motion.
Yeah, this is gonna make an incredible difference, so thank you. And we do need a motion.
And just want to say.
As a parent of 2 softball players, I would love to make the motion to approve the request for the addition of lights at Jet Field by Littleton Youth Baseball Club.
Motion made by Bino, the second,
I'll second.
seconded by Janine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? You have a unanimous decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will have to come back to the board when it's done to accept the project
Mhm.
as a donation, but we'll do that when the project's done.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dave.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, next up, we've got an update on Aspen staff grade input, turn time on grades. So we're gonna hear from high school principal John Harrington, middle school principal Jason Everhart on the turn time around grading and assignments. Welcome.
I thought for a minute if the professor wasn't here after 20 minutes, we could leave the meeting there.
Doesn't work anymore.
No. I want to start us off today. You know, we had met a few weeks ago about creating some guidelines just around, you know, how timely homework, tests, quizzes, projects should be returned. So I'll speak on behalf for the middle school. It created a lot of conversations between our leadership team, parents, our whole staff, to really start to dig into what does that look like? And so I'd like to just start off with a little bit of rationale about why you see the document that you see, rather than just here's the policy. I wanted to kind of step back from it and take a little bit of a different perspective. When we talk about the timely return, there are many things that were common practice pre-COVID, and as COVID hit, we relaxed some of those things. And at the time, it was the right call. We weren't sure what families were going through. We had no idea the extent of it. So we really pulled back on a lot of the expectations. One of the things, and I'll speak for the middle school, that we didn't do is we never sat down to have this conversation of, okay, COVID's over. How do we get back to some previous things? So in some of this, there is sort of that continued expectation that kids can turn work when they're ready, and teachers, you know, will do something similar. So what we want to do is really tighten that up and return the middle school and the high school to some pre-COVID expectations when it comes to work production and feedback and return of these things.
So what you're seeing here is what I wanted to do is rather than just say that there's just the teacher only part of it, I'm a big believer in partnerships. And I really think that whenever it comes to work, there's the educator, the teacher part of it, but that partnership also includes the students and the families. If it's just a one-sided expectation, we're missing out on a great opportunity to include everybody and really have a great reset in terms of what we expect from everybody. So think of that like, that typical triangle partnership. So what I'd like to do is just kind of go through real hopefully succinctly enough and certainly take your questions. And John, feel free to add in or jump in. What we'll start off with are the teacher guidelines. So what we really wanted to do was identify very specifically what those guidelines are. So homework, quizzes, classwork, we felt like a 2-week turnaround at max was appropriate. Anything more than that, you're trying to recall information from before. So if you're not getting an assignment that was given a month ago and then asking kids to really glean something from that response, it's just too long of a time. We also didn't want to make it so short that we ended up not being able to have that practice happen regular. So we felt like 2 weeks was an appropriate amount of time to say that should be plenty within that. Large projects, essays, tests, those kinds of things might require a different kind of timeline. If you're the 8th grade ELA teacher and you've got 125 essays to read, 2 weeks is just not going to be enough to be able to do that. So we wanted to allow for those kinds of projects to have a different timeline. And that will be communicated with the students and with families as those things happen. So there isn't just an open-ended date, but there should be an established expectation of when that will return. And then, part 3, if for some reason that date has to change, somebody gets sick, right? We had snow days, whatever it might be, that we should also be giving families information about that. And so when that stuff can be expected, if we need an extension on something like that. So the big part of this is really around communication, right? Not only just putting sort of a date and time to things, but also including an expectation component of it so that we are communicating with students and we are communicating with home. So everybody's on the same page about what is due and when it's due. So for the students part of it, we wanted to make sure that the students had a responsibility in this, to bring some accountability to this part of it. And so getting back to when an assignment is given, there's a due date. And the expectation is that students try and complete that work by that due date. One of the things that came up with my staff specifically is one of the practices that we often see are students will come in with a stack of assignments like the week before grades are due and say, here, and expect the teacher to be able to grade all that. It's just, that's something that we would struggle with to be able to do. Or we have students who were like, hey, can you give me a copy of that assignment from like 8 weeks ago? And because I've lost it. And now we're trying to recreate learning that was well in the rearview mirror. So what we want to do is we also want to add an accountability piece for students to say, assignment's been given, this is the due date. But like the teachers, if you need more time, that's something that you can work with the teacher to make that arrangement. And they can help decide what's appropriate in that case. But the idea, again, communication, students talking to staff, parents talking to staff so that everybody's working together. And then finally, the family guidelines around really checking Aspen, making sure that you're current with where your child is in their progress, right? If we're asking teachers to put this stuff into Aspen and we're providing all this information, I think the third leg of this is really to say to families, check it as often as you can so that we can assess, a student's progress, their mastery, long before we get to that term grade. So what I submit to you are these 3 components of this partnership between school, student, and home. Don, do you want to add in?
Yeah. Not much to add, actually. I think you said it well. We did collaborate closely on this. We've had a couple of meetings and we've even had a discussion this afternoon about it. The thing I have to acknowledge is that this has not been rolled out to the high school faculty at large yet. We were just talking about this in early February meeting, then we had the vacation, so we'll have to have a staff meeting. But we'd like to send it out to them. Our school leadership team, some teachers have looked at it, as well as our school council, and have had input, including the 2 student reps on the school council. So they actually contributed to some operational considerations for us. This is very much an overview for the school committee and for the public at large to understand the key concepts of guidelines for right at the top, in bold, guidelines for timely communication, grading, posting, submitting, and returning to school assignments. That's at the essence what we're trying to address here. So there's really clear, it's very clear, it's very simple, it's very reasonable. And those are watchwords I think we might have shared in response to some feedback from the public at the last school committee meeting on February 6th. So clear, simple, and reasonable, and very understandable to anyone to say, yeah, this makes sense. The discussions at the school leadership team meeting and the recent school council meeting did give us pause to think about some other things that we could consider with grading and assessment practices at the high school. So that's operational stuff that, well, yeah, that's right. When a student's struggling, what's their responsibility to seek help? What's the notification requirement or an expectation? Make it clear. I mean, it's understood. A lot of these things we talked about, we take it for granted that people know to do this, like when to call a parent when, or notify a counselor, notify an administrator, teacher is really worried about a kid. We do talk about that a lot in terms of our student supports, especially with our MTS model, MTSS model at all the schools. But I would say that we want to make that really explicit operationally, and that came out. So this led to rich discussions on how we can even improve other practices specific to the teachers' practice, professional practice, administrative practice, counseling, support, and intervention. So I think it's very understandable. We want to roll it out to the entire high school faculty, though. I want to acknowledge that. And I imagine, you know, Dr. Clincy often talks about the documents being green prints, and that this could be somewhat of an iterative document that we will take additional feedback and say, oh, yeah, that's right. We could phrase that a little bit better. But I think the general concepts are, you know, captured here succinctly for the school committee to understand that we've addressed the concerns that were brought forward to you in early February and in prior minutes to us about the timely return and post grading and post return and posting of grades. I think this captures it and addresses the concerns.
Do we have access to that document?
This was something we were just tweaking this afternoon. So
Okay.
this is something we just wanted to present and share our feedback with you today.
It's a draft at this point.
So since it's a draft, how are you going to work to get buy-in from all the three parties that are mentioned in the proposal? So, you know,
Well,
this concern was originally brought to us by a parent,
Well,
so.
if we just start from the bottom, if we could scroll down to the parents, these are very simple. They're parents, this is just sort of a general expectation and guideline for parents. We can't necessarily pose requirements on parents. The students, we do have requirements around how they're to be responsive. The teachers, we do have professional responsibilities, and we talked a little bit about this at the last school committee meeting. This is subject to the assessment evaluation part of the evaluation rubric. So there's an accountability or professional responsibility piece. So this is sort of more, these are guidelines and principles that we agree upon. If we have concerns about it, we'll address them through our evaluation process.
But I mean, like the messaging piece is your next step.
Well, I
once
think
you
it'll be
hammer out
similar to
all
what,
those
you know,
details.
Jason he can talk a little bit about his conversation with his, I think he had a faculty meeting about it. I don't think there's much to argue about when you look at these general overarching concepts. I mean, there's room for debate and negotiation. This came up in the last school committee meeting. And then this time when there needs to be direction given by, you know, to some degree, we're not looking for this to be a school committee policy. This is an operational procedure. And it's our job as administrators to give direction and guidance and respond to any concerns that may come up individually with teachers.
It will be communicated to all three parties.
Yes, that's what I was, you know, because it's, you definitely have the audience of the teachers, you know, you have direct communication with them, but, you know, you still also need to communicate these expectations to the students and to the families so that it does seem like a team effort and all three parties are buy in and see the value.
Oh,
of
yes, this will definitely be communicated to him, but that's not an issue. When I heard buy-in, I was not looking for acceptance or like a approval by the.
No. I mean, that all three stakeholders are committed to this and they understand the value in everybody holding up their.
Yeah, I think that's through the collaborative process that we've already undertaken. And if, you know, we talked about it being iterative, a draft, if there's substantial feedback where something is askew and needs to be corrected, I think we would certainly be responsive to that. If we felt that something here was not clear simple enough to understand and reasonable, we'll fix it.
And we thought it was important to cast a wide net. If we got too specific, then we could get caught in, in that net. And so now we're kind of doing the spirit of this. We wanted to be able to have room for people to move, but also to say there is an expectation. So, in our staff meeting specifically, we didn't present it as, if you feel like it or if you want to, this is happening, but we have a chance together to craft what this would look like. I'll be honest, for most every teacher, this is already happening. So in terms of the buy-in, in fact, I think for some teachers, it was validating. As I'm standing up there and you see teachers' head nodding because they're like, yes, I already do this, right? So I think it sort of it levels the playing field about what those expectations are. So I didn't.
I think I have to agree with what I think the response will be favorable among the LHS faculty. I think there's nothing really controversial about this simple request or expectations and guidance particularly for the teachers. The students and the parents guideline, it's suggestions to parents, but for the students, it's just a reinforcement of what things we already expect and we try to guide them on.
I mean, when you were having those conversations with teachers, did you get into the value of immediate feedback as an informative way? Like sometimes with these larger essays or projects, students can get pretty deep into it in the wrong direction
Sure.
before they get feedback if they're waiting until the end.
The students at the high school council were really informative about that. And they kind of reminded us of, we were talking so much about what the professional staff needed to do. They talked a little bit about what they want the students to understand and know that what their responsibilities are. I thought that was really mature of them to speak up in a way for what's their role in it. So we took some notes in additional operationally for what they said about, I'll just give you one example, not to get into the nitty gritty of operational procedures. But, students, what we made a note on it under the student there's an additional bullet points for us at the high school for student guidelines. One of them would be, we have a flex block. And this would just be one simple example. And we want students to know when they're struggling academically, that they'll seek out, if they're summoned by a teacher to get extra help during our flex block or after school, they will follow through on that. There's a lot of kids who have avoidant behaviors, would rather go and do something else during flex block. Teachers are sometimes frustrated. They don't take advantage of those opportunities when teachers make themselves available. At the high school, that will be an additional bullet point shared with the students. So there's a few other things. Again, we didn't want you to get lost in the weeds of our operational procedures and all the things we do with the kids and staff. But it led to really good discussions and it was a real collaborative process today.
That's good.
And I think for us, it was less about, there's volumes of books that have been written about best teaching practices. We wanted to stay away from that and really just keep to what are the guidelines that we're shooting for, right? We want to make sure that we at least identify when we expect. It is my hope, and from everything, I can't say that I've ever seen it not happen during a larger project where the teacher just is like, okay, good luck, see you in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
There's constant help along the way. So now those things happen just as part of natural good teaching practice.
Thank
The
you.
use of Google Classroom has transformed this process.
Yeah.
It's made it much
Back
more
to the technology.
easier to do.
Uses.
It's kind of in the weeds, but from the outside looking in, my kids are long past this. It sounded like the issue that the parent brought to us kind of centered around the communication between the student passing in their homework, the teacher accepting the homework, the parent knowing the homework had gotten accepted. And like that pass off and that acceptance and then what was going to happen next. It sounded like the communication around that was getting gnarled. And can Aspen be set up to clarify that and make that clear? Even in projects, like they did the first part, we looked at it, we talked about it, boom, it's in Aspen. So if anyone ever comes back, you didn't, the teacher goes, you didn't do that. Well, teacher, you put it in the Aspen right here,
I'll speak for the middle school first. This is an example of why putting things, items in Aspen in a timely manner are important. Because at the middle school level, what we didn't want to have happen were kids saying, oh, I'm getting a B+, right? And I don't need to make up any missing work because I'm doing great. And then all of a sudden that B+ goes to a C- in a day once zeros start being put in.
Right.
Or, 50s. The other part too, though, is we wanted to make sure that, that communication piece happens, but also finding ways so that if that upkeep is happening quickly, right, because that's the really important part of it, that communication will hopefully start to take care of itself, because now the teacher is communicating, the students are looking, as they will obsessively at their asking scores, but also to say like, what is it they're looking for? So that's something we intend to talk about, is like, how do we code the certain things so that everybody understands 6 through 12, what's missing, what does that look like? So this is all part of that communication process.
When did this come in? Did it come in?
Exactly.
What it would did, and then what was the next step taken with it? If that's all documented online, some of this goes away,
Exactly. I think it's just about kind of forcing the hand a little bit to say, okay, you know what, it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Since the start of COVID, it's time to get back to some of the great practices. So I think that's exactly what we'll see, some of this happening on its own.
And we're trying to work out a, sorry.
Yeah. This is going a little bit beyond what you said, Janina. We really need to look at grade span and responsibilities. Our job as educators is to develop independent learners. So when they hit high school, more responsibility is going to be put on those students so that when they go to college, they're going to succeed. If we have too many checks and balances in like we do in middle school, then we're going to set some of our students up for failure. That independence is a key component of a vision of or the portrait of a learner as well. So you have to think about beginning and end for a grade span from grade 6 to 12.
Yeah, we definitely had some feedback that we wanted to have the students be able to make sure it upbeat specifically to the high school about being self-directed, showing initiative, just like we have in our vision of a graduate / portrait of a learner. There's certain skills we want them to demonstrate as we prepare them for post-secondary life. So that we captured in certainly some of the guidance. One of the specific things, again, not to get into the weeds of operational procedures, but to your point, one of the things that we were discussing was a new symbol of some way to recognize and not alarm parents or students that they're failing or whatever, if they're missing work because of an extenuating circumstance. They still have the time to make it up. Rather than put the 0 in, we would come up with some type of symbol. I'll just give you an example, maybe an asterisk, it would be explained, or a grade like an A, not able to assess, that's what that would stand for, because it's still missing, versus the student who just blatantly didn't do the assignment and then is graded accordingly for failure to submit the work, despite numerous attempts to try to help them to get the work done.
Notes are a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'll look at that. I'll make a note to see if there's a note segment in the Aspen portal where there could be some type of feature where and there's different, there's Power School, there's Aspen, we'll have to look into the specifics of Aspen. If we can have teachers make a note of what's related to a specific assignment, why it is graded that way, but that'd be a nice feature.
Yeah, I talked to John on Tuesday. He's turning in on Thursday. Have all the faith in the world. I mean, but it's just that acknowledgement that is ongoing. I as a parent would go like, okay, you're turning in on Thursday, are you okay? I mean, it's so much.
There's some adjustments for a class of say 25 at grade 3 and 120 students.
Gosh,
and
yes.
with multiple sections in English for an English course, for an English teacher. So we'd have to make those adjustments. So there'd be maybe a more abbreviated approach in high school.
One of the things that we see here from parents at the middle school often is, I'm less worried about my child's grade and more about their progress. And so that feedback part of the language we want to really address too, because in some cases the grade doesn't tell the whole story. So we want to make sure that, that families can see that my child is struggling, my child is proficient, right? We want to be able to tell a different story. So there might be times where we're not so focused on the grade part of the middle school. That transition from elementary to middle, right? We have a lot of families who are used to constant communication like they get at those levels. We just can't provide that level that consistently. But this allows us to be able to do some of that. So in addition to grades, or in some cases, maybe in lieu of, if you're a math teacher, you're giving homework every day, right? That might not be as sustainable, but if there are ways that we can communicate efficiency, certainly be open to that too. So those are some of the differences that, you see at the middle school versus the high school, but the idea being the same. Is that we want to communicate as much as we can and just really about finding out what the capabilities are and what's realistic and as John said, reasonable.
Appreciate that.
I just want to appreciate you both for really hearing the feedback, not as an attack or a negative, criticism, but as an opportunity to include, which we're always looking for as a district. And I think it speaks a lot to you both as leaders and also your process being so collaborative and inclusive, but on the flip side, owning your role as administrators and leaders. And I appreciate what you said, John, of like, these are expectations. This is not really a negotiation, but you went about it in a very inclusive process to make sure you heard everything. And then it is your job to say, this is the expectation. There's a lot of flexibility in there of certain circumstances and situations, which we would expect, but it is nice to set clear expectations. And I think that leads to consistency. So we really appreciate it.
Could we see it one more time? What was the second bullet point? It's like rather simple assignments, 2 weeks. Third bullet point was if they know it's going to be longer than 2 weeks, they would communicate that to the class.
It's the longer essays.
You want me to show it to you or read it?
That's what
Dealer's choice. You can maybe show it.
All right.
The one for the teacher.
It's like the second bullet point.
Large projects, tests, essays, or similar student work should be graded or feedback provided in a timely manner, but is subject to educator discretion. So that was something we really talked a lot about at our school council meeting. What does that mean, educator discretion? To be clear on that. And so we have some side notes on that to give teachers some guidance on that, that there's this latitude and flexibility, but there has to be clear rationale for why something was. It still needs to be timely.
Sure.
And it needs to be, the key thing is if you extend that timeline, what the teacher does for extenuating circumstances, either in their life or something came up, they had to make adjustments. It needs to be
Thank
communicated.
you. That's it. That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Communication.
So
right?
we have a side note on that, and actually, there's another sentence, I think it's in my version, that we were just talking about this afternoon, right before the meeting. But it says the teacher must communicate, the reason why and when they can expect the adjusted date.
Sure. That was the only issue I had with the second bullet
there's
point
another
was,
sentence. It's
you know,
funny you caught that.
it could take longer, but it's like, but when?
But-
Like, there needs to be an
Right.
expectation as to when it's going to be returned, so that the student can then follow up with the faculty
Sure.
member to say, it's been 3.5 weeks, am I still
Yeah.
waiting, or what's
I
happening?
think that was the clear feedback from the parent in
Yeah.
public, was that it was nebulous. It was like, there was no talk about it. It was just, it was turned in. We never heard anything about it. And then it was suddenly months later returned to us and just sort of matter of factly. And
Sure.
that's something, this operational procedure takes care of that.
If I could just add one thing, so I think one of the other things that we heard from the community member was sometimes if the projects are not, they're graded within the term in which they were assigned to, not just assigned in term 2 and then not graded until term 3. So if there's some language you can put in there to make sure that expectation is
Yeah.
set.
That was a part of our
We did.
discussions as a staff. So again, to use ELA as an example, like the essay might be due, let's say this week and the term ends next week. And there's simply no way. So we expect that there will be times where that just happens just through the natural things.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it's still timely.
Yeah, so as long as the students know when it's going to carry, into which term, that's helpful for them to not depend on it to be in that term
Absolutely.
or not. know that it's gonna be the next term.
Communicate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No clapping?
Good one.
All right, we've got 2 orders of new business. First up is the proposed draft 2025-2026 calendar. So we'll invite Ms. Steele to walk us through this. It's always one of my favorite times.
I love that. I'm so glad I get to be the one to talk about it. All right, so in your packet and shortly on the screen, we will see the proposed calendar for the 25-26 school year. It is a collaborative process. We start by creating a draft and then we share it with an admin team and then we consult with the LEA. We come back, we make discussions, we make changes, and then we bring it here. Kind of our best foot forward with regards to what we're proposing. So when you look at this year's calendar, you'll notice that it really mirrors, or excuse me, when you look at next year's school calendar, it really mirrors this current year's school calendar. So we're proposing that we start the Monday before Labor Day with staff. Students come in that Tuesday with our pre-K starting a week later. So official first day of school will be August 26th. With all of the 180 days, it would bring us to June 16th, a Tuesday, to end the school year, pending snow days or anything else that happens. The keynote of next year, what's interesting is that the religious holidays fall on weekdays. The two religious holidays of Yom Kippur and Diwali fall on weekdays, and so those are required days off per policy. This year, one of the holidays fell on a weekend, so we didn't have to worry about a weekday holiday. So that's kind of what, in comparison to this year's calendar versus next year's, that's already a day in June added because of that religious holiday. That is falling on a weekday for next school year. You'll see we mirrored the two conference days on the Fridays. Those have worked out well at this point in time during this trial phase that we're continuing on. You'll notice in red, there are 12 official early release days, 10 of which are professional development days. We have mirrored this schedule. We mapped it out into the school year to be spread out somewhat evenly, a little bit heavy on the front end to get us going at the beginning of the school year, but otherwise spread out somewhat evenly throughout the school year. We did mirror these as to what this year's early release days are with regards to the 10 that are early release. And I just want to acknowledge that so we're following through with Wednesdays from the first chunk of the school year, and then having the Friday at the end of the school year to mirror, keeping the same of Wednesdays consistent, and then we switch to Fridays and it stays consistently Fridays. In conversation with admin and in consultation with the LEA, I just want to share that the preference is actually to have Wednesday early release days for several reasons that we talked at length about previously. However, we also don't have the official data from this school year. We have it from a couple of years ago, but we wanted to make sure that we gather the data. And so there's also the agreement that let's mirror again next year while we're collecting the data this year. We don't have the data to bring to you yet because we haven't had any of those early release on Fridays to be able to share that information with you. But I want to make sure I acknowledge that with you today. I believe otherwise, the schedule is fairly straightforward and looks familiar to what we've seen before. So I think I'll stop and answer any questions that we may have regarding what you see.
I had one question to start, but I can't promise anything more. We have had one Friday conference day. What has the data been on that, on parent attendance, on educator response or feedback?
Feedback was that it was well attended, more so at the younger, so the younger the grade level, the better attendance it is.
Okay.
As you go up in grades, the less attended our conferences are. However, very well attended, especially K through 8, quite honestly.
Okay.
And the Friday for the conferences, the feedback that I've heard that I've received is that it's a good day for the conferences. Conference days it's a mental shift, right? And so I think the LEA appreciate, our educators appreciated not having to go through a school day, having your teacher hat on, and then potentially having to put your parent hat on for a couple of hours, and then having to come back to school and put on that conference hat, which is different than dealing with children, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to just say like, okay, today, this is my main focus, and I'm just doing conferences today, was well received. And so I think that at this point in time is good.
That's helpful.
They are long days, though. I do want to acknowledge that, right? It is, and it's a build up to, because right, you can't just show up and be like, yeah, I'm going to talk, right? It's preparing all of the work in order to be able to show the caregiver, this is how your child is doing, this is why, here's the evidence, right? Here's what you could be doing at home. So it is a lot of preparation to be able to have a full day of that.
Yeah.
But I think push comes to shove.
Yeah.
It has been well received.
And I know something we had talked about, I think last year, was certainly on the parent side, like preference for Friday, it's just an easier day to be home, but it's also an easier day to attend the conference. But there was some willingness or flexibility on like Friday or Monday. Like, I think as an educator, it's like, I did all the conferences and now I have the weekend, or it's like, I had the whole weekend to rest and now I'm going into it. There's, you know, both sides are there, but if the Friday is well received, I think that works.
I think for conferences that sticking to Friday is a good, as opposed to Monday. Yeah, for example.
Is this the year, I'm starting to get old, or the years are running together. Is this the first year that we've had, the full day closure for conferences?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Or
why.
are we in year 2 of that?
There were two.
We're in year 2.
We did this
So the
last
first year we did Wednesday, Friday, and then this year we're doing Friday.
It's the second year.
Also, please don't say that's a sign of old because I have said the years are blending together.
They're blending together.
So not having to be a sign of age.
We all
it's
feel
just
that way.
wisdom. Yeah, that's what it is.
Stress.
Yeah, or that.
Okay, so that's, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
I
year
have-
2, which is why we have a little bit more feedback and information
Sure.
on it. But we're still in a trial state of it.
In agreement, I've heard tremendous feedback on the Friday conference day. I think it's way easier for parents to attend on a Friday. There's a little bit more job flexibility. I think the educators appreciate that weekend on the other side of it, not having to go back and see the kids Thursday, Friday. After you just grind it out the entire day. So I think that's a win-win. I checked, February break is in line with President's Day, so we're good. I don't have an error there. I mean, April 3rd is Good Friday. We're doing a half day on that day. It's not a holiday that we take off. I might not have much support here, but I continue to bring it up. We can go all or none with the religious holidays. So last year or the year before, I think it was just last year, we took Good Friday off as the observed religious holidays. So the kids were in school, I want to say, or they will be in school this year. So half day?
Last year, I think last year. was-
Last year too?
Yeah, our wisdom's really hitting us tonight.
I know.
Last year, I believe was.
It's the second year of the
Yeah, it's the second year.
Okay.
Good Friday not being in.
So that first year seemed to go fine because we didn't catch a lot of flack. So I don't know how the calendar lines up this year. Like we are doing a split day, so the kids are in school, but obviously the staff's there for the full day. One thing that other districts do is they take the PD and they put them on the other religious holidays, just like we've done here with Good Friday. I'm not asking for a change. I'm not looking to ruffle the feathers. Well, you could certainly take the half day from the 24th of September and move it to Yom Kippur, and then you could take the half day from the 29th of October and move it to the Diwali day. It puts them on not Wednesdays and not Fridays. I get that's an issue. But I continue to bring it up because right now we're picking and choosing which days we have off. And I continue to be of the opinion that it's difficult to support our religious holidays. There are other districts that have more than 2, 3, 4. I think there's a district close to us that has at least 4 religious holidays off. So something to keep an eye on. I would continue to support the removal of all religious holidays. We have a policy in place to suggest that there are other religious holidays than just these 2. So if students or families choose to miss the day for religious observation, they aren't marked absent that day. Their work isn't missing. They have, per the new policy, a reasonable time to turn it in. I don't know that I would get much support on that from my community, from my fellow board members here, but I continue to advocate for doing something different than we're currently doing with the religious holidays.
I just want to point out that if PD gets put on those days, right, then staff that are celebrating that holiday for themselves.
Sure. Which is the point that I made with Good Friday, though.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing, right, I
So
just
we're
want to
kinda doing it already.
explicitly,
Yeah.
right, but as a board and policy, it was put into place that Good Friday is no longer a recognized holiday. And it wasn't intentional that we're mirroring, I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to point out that to respect also not only our students and our families, but also our staff and their religious celebrations.
which is tough to do because there's a number of religious holidays. And we have a PD on Good Friday. So. Otherwise,
So are you recommending to change the PD day on Friday?
I'm not-
Or do you wanna talk
I'm-
about putting PD day on Yom Kippur and.
I'm not recommending any changes to this calendar. I think where we are, is fine. It's a beautiful calendar.
I will tell Joyce, because
Wow.
Joyce is the one that manipulated us.
So easy to read.
I would certainly engage in conversation among the school committee, not at this meeting, but at future meetings as to how we treat religious holidays. The issue here in particular is that Kelly's likely gonna call us 2 snow days next year, and we're gonna get pushed into the last week of June. The last full week of June.
Blame it on me.
Oh, yeah, it's all your fault.
Well, no, you
Good
guys
Friday,
are not just-
Good Friday is April 3rd.
Yeah, so
Good Friday.
I guess we would need 3. 2 would be okay. We would need 3.
Exactly, to push us in,
And
right?
if we have 3, we end up getting on June 22nd.
And I think that, I think people would be open to having a conversation. I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you not necessarily, putting it out there for right now, but a future conversation, I think multiple parties would be open to coming to a table and having a conversation. And I think it would be incredibly important for our students to be at the table for that conversation, as our most recent policy change was student driven. And so I think parties would be open to a conversation in a short.
We don't have any feedback on this is year 1 of the Friday PDs at the end.
In this model, yes, we did do 2 years ago. Friday PDs, there was like an October Friday PD and another month with a Friday PD.
The one
And
before Memorial Day has been typical.
that one has been typical for many, many years. So we've always had that one Friday. We 2 years ago added 2 other early release and we attached them to weekends. Attendance was proved to be difficult and not as students and staff were not as present. And so it changed it for us that on the following year, we said, we're gonna switch all back to Wednesday PDs in order to ensure that our students are coming to school and our staff are coming to school and everyone's present from there.
Yeah.
So that's why we're gonna collect the data this year. But again, I think people are trying, not ruffling the feathers, and so we're willing to go with it until we have some really clear data.
And what is the
More.
data that you look at, attendance?
Yeah, so we track attendance. So we have a document already running with our early release days. And our student attendance by school, our staff attendance by school, and just kind of seeing a Wednesday versus a Friday, what the attendance rate is.
Are you collecting any anecdotal data about reasons for attendance choices or?
Any that, yes, any that is provided that we can collect that people are willing to share, absolutely, yes.
I will also advocate that I believe a Friday half day for the student body population, especially the K-5 population. Friday's much easier than a Wednesday. Significantly easier. And I also, my own personal opinion, I might be wrong, there might be probably work out there that says I'm incorrect, but I think to grind it out to 4.5 days and then be done as a student is better than this interruption midweek. And I could make the case that it might be same might be true for the faculty. It's like we stay in student teacher mode for 4.5 days, and then we're able to put the PD hat on at the end versus I know some of it's self-led, so those folks have got to get ready midweek. And if it takes away from or causes additional stress middle of the week is maybe a better way to put it. And then they've got to jump back into the classroom the following day. So.
I think there's arguments for both sides,
Sure.
if I may say, right, like the idea of PDs be able to jump in the next day and use something, so that way it starts to stick and it starts to go. I think sometimes a midweek little interruption or break is helpful for everyone's kind of mental capacity, emotional kind of load. For both students and staff, right? I think for every point, there's
I
the
think it
counter.
creates stress
that it
for
consider.
families to have it's the exact opposite. I think it creates stress for families middle of the week. Not only the parental units as to where the childcare is gonna come from, But even as your children start to become independent, it's where are they going? Who are they hanging out with? Who's getting left out? What are the after school plans? All that stuff. They're not folding into, it's now the weekend and family decisions and we're doing things. It's 75 kids marching to the point, seriously. And what sort of drama gets created after school? So I understand that the staff would like Wednesday, but I'm letting you know that it's not the best day for many folks that I speak with and for many observations that I've had. Friday would be preferable.
And the decrease of attendance on Fridays of students. I would rather have a student come for a half day
Yeah.
than nothing at all. And more
Agreed.
students are coming on Wednesday early release days than on Friday early release days. And so I'd rather see a kid in school for 3 hours, structured with adults that are caring for them, educating them,
Yeah.
than not coming at all.
Right,
on a
right.
Friday.
And if the data suggests that, I would support that as well. I think those days are coming. Those days they're upcoming, right? We really don't have the data suggest that that's not.
We
the
had it from
case.
2 years ago, which is why I'm saying, which is why I
Yeah.
feel confident being able to state that and share
Okay.
that, right? And so that's why we're willing to, we switched it around and did it later in the year, right? So we're gonna try it, collect the data.
Sure.
And then be able to share that updated data with you all.
Sounds good.
I appreciate the consistencies. I think that's what we worked on a lot last year, was like just pick a Wednesday, do that for the first half of the year, and then we'll try out doing trials for the Friday. One thing that I would suggest is if parents want to have these Friday half days, even if we just keep it for half of the year, just to compromise between teachers' needs and parents' needs, that we have to have that messaging to parents, like this doesn't mean it's day off school. And just making sure that they know, like, doesn't mean it's not a long weekend. Like if we abuse the system, then we have to go back to Wednesdays. So that just can be something too, that we could just send that messaging out to parents that it's an excuse to get out for 3 days. It's actually to help you guys so that we don't have all Wednesday days.
And we have, right, attendance has been a really big message on the district's part this year. And so that's why I think collecting this data for this year will be very interesting to see.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you guys think you'd be able to, in like June, give us a little bit of information, like one of our last meetings on attendance?
With regards to attendance, yeah.
For this is our first year doing the Fridays. Just, because it's on top of mind, kind of, when we're just talking about it.
That's great. And then we'll have it in preparation for next year's. That's when we get to this point.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, okay.
Not that, I think
I
it's
think
worth
there's two sides,
Conversation.
right, there's definitely two sides to it, I think. If you asked me to sit in a conference on Friday at 1 p.m., I would not register for it. Like, there is the flip side of like when your brain is like ready to check out, and so like, I do understand that side. And 100% as a parent, I am looking forward to Friday half days, because Wednesdays are killing me, like, I can't take off work, it's just so difficult. So I just think there's two sides, and I appreciate the willingness to approach it with like compromise and a recognition of both sides. Like, I think that's totally fair. And that data, we should really work on data and not assumptions.
Agreed, very true. All right, if there's no other discussion, we have a motion to accept the 25-26 school year as presented.
I move that we accept the 25-26 school calendar as presented.
Motion made by Elaine,
Second.
second by Bino. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Here, none. Have a calendar. All right, next up for the controversial is the 25-26 school committee calendar. If you take 10 minutes on this. you got a problem.
don't
get any ideas, Justin. We'll only take 10 minutes if you want 10.
No.
It looks great.
Yeah, we mirrored the same calendar as last year, just put the dates in place, so. Any questions on the dates that we have proposed? And you do realize you have flexibility if you would like another meeting, you can always schedule it.
That is all by.
And the summer retreat, was it 2 days last summer? Or did we do one?
We just booked 2 days just in case
Just in case.
something comes up that we want to spend.
And then we steamed through.
Yeah, it's like a placeholder.
That's the place.
And all three times.
Have a hurricane come through.
Yeah, right.
You never,
So,
Yeah, that absolutely down for the summer. Remember that?
I do.
Hearing no questions or comments, are we okay with this?
Yeah.
Good, our motion.
I move that we accept the school committee meeting calendar for 25-26 as presented.
Motion made by Lane,
Second.
seconded by Pino. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, hearing none, passes unanimously as well. This is our second opportunity for interested citizens. So if there's anybody with us this evening, either in person or on Zoom, that would like to speak, use the podium, give your name and address for the public record, please.
My name is Marcus Boyer, 18 Boxborough Road, and appreciate the opportunity to speak. And specifically, I wanted to thank the principals from middle school and high school for the presentation of the new policy expectations. I think it's quite straightforward, very common sense based. I think one improvement that you could consider would be to include how a person can express concern. If a teacher has a concern with a student, you probably already have a cascade. I'm assuming the teacher speaks with the student. If that doesn't work, they speak with a parent. If a student has a concern about grading, who do they talk to? They talk to the teacher first and doesn't feel comfortable if they talk to the vice principal, or is there some way a teacher or if a parent has a concern about grading, who do they talk to? I think that could be helpful in the policy. That's all. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you very much.
We do have a raised hand online.
Okay, well, we have someone.
I'm sorry, no. I'm sorry, I didn't see. Oh, go ahead. You can finish it up.
Okay. All right, me again. Jenny Boyer, Foxborough Road, Littleton. I also want to thank the administration, and I know that there were other conversations that were going on too with staff in the schools. I was part of the school council at the high school. So I saw firsthand the collaboration that was happening between teachers, students, and the community. It was a lively conversation. That was done in respect and in team effort, which I really appreciated. And I loved that the students were able to voice how they thought that it would impact them. I think that it is straightforward. I do have to say that second paragraph still gives me a little pause, as someone who's kind of type A and likes, lots of structure and knowing, but I also realize that, teachers and administration need to have the purview to act in what they feel is the best as well. And then just one other thing to note, and maybe this was in the weeds that you didn't talk about, John, was one of the students made the suggestion I thought was really good, that the teachers have back and graded everything that's for an upcoming test within with 3 days before, so that they can see what they did that was wrong or whatever, and have a chance to correct it and get feedback from the teacher before they then head into the test. So anyway, and thank you to the committee for really putting this as a point to talk about. I know that in my own family, there's a lot of relief going on, and with a lot of the students and teachers and parents that I have talked to, they're also really welcoming this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back and reporting out again.
Take our Zoom caller.
Matthew Ridge, you there?
Yes, I'm here. All right, so it's
Can hear
Matthew,
you. Maybe you can just speak up just a touch, Matthew, and name and
Yep.
address for the record.
Matthew Ridge, 325 Great Road. I have two concerns. My son's on an IEP, and we just got back his reviews for this year, his decimals, I guess you want to call them. And I'm rather concerned because my wife and I are both questioning the scale that is being used, because as much as I love my son, and I do, his spelling and his writing, although his writing is a little bit better this year, it is still not where it should be for somebody his age. He's almost 9 years old, and he still has an issue just writing on the line.
Matthew, may I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Is this something that you wish to bring to the school committee, or have you had an opportunity to speak with building administration or your student's teacher yet?
We have, and that's why I'm bringing it up to the committee, is because I want to find out if there is a standard that is being put forward with the IEP that is lesser than is expected of a normal student.
Did you receive that answer from the person that you asked this of? Or were they going to get back to you, or?
I have yet to hear back from the people who actually did the IEP testing.
Okay.
But my worry is that because they said his spelling exceeds expectation, my son this past weekend had to write a card to his mother, his grandmother, saying happy birthday, and he couldn't spell the word happy.
Okay.
So and it wasn't HAPPY, it was HAPIE. So I understand where his logic is, and I understand where he's going with that. Don't get me wrong, but it's wrong. And if he's having an issue with a 5-letter word, and he's he's 9 years old, how are we grading this? Because it doesn't feel that it's accurate. It feels like what they're doing it feels like it's best effort. This is what it feels like to me. It may be wrong, but
Would you do me a favor and have this conversation with the staff at the building and report back to us only if you feel like the information you've received is concerning to you? Because this is an individual situation with your student.
this might be on an individual basis, but I'm more worried that this is not an individual basis, that this is a standard. And that's why I'm asking about the standard, is because if the standard is lower for children who are on IEPs, because they are on IEPs, I would like to know this.
So Matthew, I would recommend that you go back to the special education teacher that's handling your son's IEP. If you need more information, we have a special education administrator, K-5. Her name is Mrs. Gilman.
Mhm.
And that should provide you with the information that you're requesting.
Okay. My second concern is that how long do the children, again, my son is 9, how long do the children get for lunch?
Depends on the school, 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay. Because my son, after he gets through the line and everything else, he has between 10 to 15. Is that
Oh, go ahead.
I'm more wondering if this is just my son being my son, which could be entirely him, but because he likes to talk. And I'm just wondering if there's a blockage, or if there's just not enough movement so children can actually spend the time eating, because when my son brings his lunchbox home, 80% of the time it's full. So I'm just concerned that he's not having enough time actually eating. And I know that's an individual thing, but I just feel, again, it's if he's telling me that he's getting like 15 minutes worth of eating time because he's standing in line waiting, I'm
Well,
wondering.
I would suggest, Matthew, that if you have concerns, talk to the homeroom teacher. I'm at the school, and I particularly deliberately, more correctly, spend time in lunchrooms looking at what's happening, for the exact reason you're speaking. I don't recall seeing a situation at Russell Street School where kids had not finished their lunch before dismissal. Not saying that it couldn't happen at times. One of the things that I have talked about the administration about at Russell Street School is we need to do what we can to help kids spend their time eating rather than talking.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons. So there's a greater chance of choking if you're talking loudly and eating at the same time. So they're very cognizant of these things, but I would recommend that you talk to your son's homeroom teacher first.
Okay, no, I mean, they do allow him to have like little snacks through the day, so that's not an issue. Not a real issue per se. I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't want to. I didn't want to just be coming down hard on anybody on this, because I know my son, like I said, I love him dearly, but he does tend to be him, and I want to make sure that there was clarification. That was all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for the comment.
Thank you.
All right. So, citizens still aren't being audience. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll close that portion of the hearing. Subcommittee reports, start with PMBC. Feel free to add on Shaker Lane material to that.
All right, Kelly, I can give the information I have, and I'm sure you always have some anecdotal stuff as well, but.
Sure.
So we had our last meeting February 11th. We had a few votes that we had to push through. One of them was changing the orientation of the building. There was some soil tests done, I think leaching field tests done, so we were able to change the orientation of the building so that there's better solar orientation, better safety, more access to kind of fields in the wood area back there. So we just had to vote on that just to change that design there, so that passed. So that was just one bit of progress we made. We also had to vote on whether we were doing this is a budgetary thing, a design bid builds, or a CMR, which is a construction manager at risk. So those have two different benefits to them. I'll try to speak to them as well as I can, but the CMR is something where it costs us a little bit more upfront, but there's a lot more upfront work done with budgeting. So the teams are kind of put together beforehand to figure out the design and the architect and all of that information to figure out what the actual budget is going to be for the school. So it can be a little bit more accurate, can be more dependable. The design bid build is pretty much there's a design, you put out a bid, and you just get that information and we take the lowest bid. So that it's not as dependable as the CMR. So we have done the CMR with the senior center and with the library, and they've always come out cheaper, I think, than the design bid build. So we decided to stick with that process and go with the CMR so that we just have better accuracy for the budget, so that our taxpayers can really be knowledgeable as to like what to expect, and not have any additional costs, hopefully, that won't be added to it. So with that, if anyone has any questions along the way, let me know. We also established a sustainability subcommittee who's meeting, the first meeting for that is on March 4th. That was something that MSBA had required for us to have, so they will be talking about all of the sustainability design input that we can have for mechanical systems and heating, solar panels, all of those things. And I think our next meeting is on March 12th. And I think the last thing I have is that MSBA did approve our schematic design phase, right? So we're going,
Yes,
yes.
we're moving into schematic design.
Yes, so we're moving to schematic design, which is a big milestone for us. So they have accepted the design and now we can kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. Oh, I
Save the best for last.
Yeah. That's excellent.
A quick question. Oh,
Sure.
I'm sorry. you-
Yeah, well, you can ask a question before I start.
I saw in the notes that there's a communication committee.
March
subcommittee.
5th, yes.
Oh, is that, yeah?
Oh, no, sorry,
I
I'm
missed
not sure when that one is.
Sustainable. The sustainability is
No.
on March fourth.
There's a communication meeting. Mrs. Kane arranged that meeting, so. I'm not sure what date that
Can we
is.
know what that is when?
Sure,
Your.
yeah, we'll send the date out to the school,
I had some ideas about it, and
Yeah.
I go there.
for sure.
Thanks.
And Stacy, I believe the next meeting is the 19th, not the 12th.
Oh, is it the 19th?
Yes.
Yeah, we had to change that, so. So what I was gonna add, not much to add, thank you, Stacy. When we met with the board of directors for MSBA, one of the things, two things that they said to us was that our educational plan was one of the strongest elementary plans that they've ever seen, and they're going to recommend it as a model for elementary schools moving forward. So felt pretty good about that. They were really impressed with our preliminary schematic as well, in terms of how we were arranging spaces and creating den space, et cetera. It was very 21st century. So it was really nice to have comments from a board that large, who see hundreds of these proposals, the time that they spend there, because they're not one-year appointments, they're many-year appointments for them. So we feel really good about that. A group of us are meeting with Studio G every week just to start fine tuning the schematic in terms of position of shared spaces, classrooms, den spaces, making sure that the design is completely aligned with students pre-K to 2. And we're looking at window designs for natural light to connect, with our environment, et cetera. And we're starting to look at millwork as well. And this is all, we're trying to get some of the tedious work done so we can come back and present to the bigger committee and take a look at some options. So it's kind of exciting that we're actually starting to talk about these things. And I talked with Dave Cartoonin, Cartoon Dave, today, and he is going to be working with us to do 3 more videos. And the first 2 will come online prior to the Springtown meeting. And the last one will be released in mid-August prior to the Fall Town meeting for the vote. So we're excited to continue our work with Dave. I had the pleasure of doing they said it was a podcast, but when I arrived, it was a VCast. So it was video. It's the only difference between the two. But it was hosted by our select board member, Karen Morrison, Jim Duggan took part as well, Stephen Udy and myself. So it was nice to be able to be interviewed and talk about the Shaker Lane project. It's actually a lot of fun. So it's another way of getting the word out. Podcasts are fairly new to the town, so I'm curious to see what kind of traffic that site actually gets. It's only the second one they've done. Nice to not be the first one.
Where will that be posted?
It's under LCTV. We did post it on our website, so you can go under Shaker Lane Building Committee and click on it.
The road signs are also great.
Yes.
As I drive through Middleton. Yeah. That's new Shaker Lane C School website. It's like there, so.
And we're actually having some yard signs made out. Obviously, they won't go up until the snow's gone and the frost is out of the ground, but we ordered 50 signs, so we'll be putting them up around the town. We're also working on.
The middle school change yet?
Yes.
Middle school
That was
one's
updated.
Okay.
We're also working to try to get a message board in front of our new office space at Indian Hill. I think that'd be a prime location.
Yeah.
And message boards are so automated now, I could just do the paper follow. And hopefully share the cost with Park and Rec, but I think that's the prime location. And, you know, for a variety of events and activities, it doesn't have to be school activities, it could be town activities. I mean, the message board has proven, to be a pretty powerful way of communicating. Who would have thought? But, you know, you're supposed to be looking at the road when you're driving, but, and, you know, when you're stopped, I get it. I mean, I look at signs all the time. And, it's good to know that it's effective. So I think we need to embrace that. Make sure that we do what we can. Inside, you mean,
Russell Street, when you get off.
we don't have one at the
We
library.
don't want to, right?
No,
No, that's fine. That would be those two.
no.
You could even just do posters in the library, like a little downstairs on the second floor, and a little display.
Yeah.
They have a video display with meetings and updates and stuff.
Yeah, we could put it on there as well with a QR code. What would be really cool would be to have one of those huge electronic signs, like big signs that we could use and get some revenue out of it. But I think that goes beyond our affordability as a school. So,
I'd love to know how many hits you get on that video.
yeah, I'm interested. And that's,
Yeah, it's a sustainability committee meeting on the 4th that Stacy mentioned is at 7 o'clock at night and it's virtual, so. People, if they're interested in hearing about building systems and electric, all electric, partial, mix, whatever, that's one of the topics we're gonna be discussing.
On the topic of Shaker Lane, I'll share that, in case you folks aren't aware, the select board and the finance committee are also talking about the need for a DPW station, in the near term, and that feasibility study's been performed. I think the preliminary results are a $45 million bill. The planning is such that, the Shaker Lane building passes. There's a certain amount of burden to the taxpayer, and if the DPW station passes as well, there would be additional burden to the taxpayer, in the year after, or I think it's just 1 year after. So there's obviously a need for both. The select board and finance committee put together like a little 2-page document as to how those two boards plan to fund both projects. They've shared some preliminary language with me. I'd like to get it out to you folks as well, so you guys can read through it and provide some feedback, because ultimately they're gonna ask, they asked the chair, so it'd be me, but like, wasn't me, it was anybody else. All 3 boards to just sign the document so that as boards turn over, new board members have an understanding as to what the plan is to fund these 2 projects. So I pose that as like an additional obstacle. The good news is that some of the preliminary numbers that were shared at that earlier town meeting as to what the burden to be for the taxpayer, you know, they're still up in the air, but it's way down, you know, substantially reduced with some of that information that was shared earlier. But then you tack on a DPW station a year later and the numbers back up again. So I'll make sure you guys get a copy of that in the next couple of days and make sure that you have any questions answered or comments addressed before you sign it.
Are they also talking about when we're paying off the bond on the middle school and the fire station? That reduces the
So that's not,
tax burden?
so those were, I believe, debt exclusions. So the answer that I've been given on that is, you know, towards the end, the amount of money that you're paying, like, yes, that tax burden goes away, but the amount of money that you're paying in the later years is substantially reduced, so you don't actually really feel much of a difference anyways.
Right.
So. All right, I'll start with Shaker Lane PMBC, budget subcommittee. Budget subcommittee can report that we've got our official public hearing, next school committee meeting, March 13th. So I want to thank Kelly, Steve, and Janine for their contributions and that presentation so far, put some finishing touches on it. We've already shared the preliminary budget with the Select Board Finance Committee. They seem to be 2 thumbs up, so we look forward to bringing that to everybody next meeting for your support. Anything to add?
Policy subcommittee, we've got one policy to review this evening, which will be the second reading of IKF. To the graduation requirements. We read about it, talked about it last time. Don't see that we've made any changes since then. Turn this over to the policy subcommittee. Say that again. You know, it's been over. Turning this over to you on the screen.
Yeah, I think it's there for second reading unless there are any edits or questions of this one that we're not.
I have none.
I'm looking.
We're in a second motion.
Yeah. And for a motion of the second reading.
So I move that we accept the policy IKF graduation requirements as displayed here.
Motion made, second reading of policy IKF. Seconded, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. If anybody opposed? One, Lane.
Oh, no.
No.
I was wait here. I was.
All right, I just wanted to make sure we're accurately gonna reflect that in the minutes.
I
All right,
would use
that,
my words.
that's funny, okay. Thought you were being shy about
Timing.
Because I'm shy.
it. Let the record reflect that that was a unanimous decision. And Elaine was just simply saying goodbye. All right, if there's no other, too funny, yes,
A quick CPAC update.
sure, thank you. No.
So I just have a quick CPAC update. The interim leadership team recently met and they mapped out their plan for the second half of the year. There are some exciting events coming up. In March, they're planning a social meetup. And in April, they're planning for elections, which is very exciting. In May, we will be hosting a student-led panel and presentation on the topic of transition. And in June, they will be doing a playground family meetup. The more information will be forthcoming in the coming weeks, so just please keep your eyes out and spread the word that there will be some information being shared out, and we'll get it out using stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Any other business for the school committee? Hearing none, motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
motion made by Vino,
Second.
seconded by Elaine, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. No one opposed. We have adjourned, thank you very much.